Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I am Karan Kukreja, the Project Director for the Cyber Warriors Conclave. Thank you all for taking your time to join us. Today, we are connecting with the senior executives responsible for protecting their company's critical infrastructures with innovative solution providers and information security experts. We will learn from them how to protect and defend our businesses from cyber attacks during interactive panels and fast track discussions. Thank you to our sponsors, SafeTech Innovations, GreenGate, Mimecast, and Assembly. The conclave will start off with a presentation on SafeTech Innovations, first decade, a cybersecurity journey, followed by a panel discussion on the cybersecurity threat landscape in 2022, moderated by Mimecast and panelists from United Yusuf Nagi Company, who is also our guest of honor, Commonwealth Bank from Australia, AXA Gulf Insurance, and Mashreq Bank, followed by another panel discussion on emerging cybersecurity technologies and business alignment, moderated by Commonwealth Bank Australia and panelists from ENY, Mashreq Bank, GCC's leading financial organization, leading Islamic bank in UAE, and SafeTech Innovations. I would now like to call upon Mr. Stoika from SafeTech Innovations. The screen is all yours, Mr. Stoika.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the kind invitation to join this amazing event. My name is Aurelian Stoica. I'm a security consultant for SafeTech Innovations, which is one of the Romania's cybersecurity leaders and also a leader in cybersecurity innovation, as the name is stating. And also, I'm a scientific researcher for the National Research Institute in Informatics from Romania. So today I will be in a dual capacity, and also I will give you insights as a scientific researcher. So thank you once again for the opportunity to present SafeTech Innovation in the today's banking panel. I will start to share my screen without further ado. Good. So, as the name is stating, SafeTech Innovation already celebrated 10 years of activity. And I think it's relevant that we will not attend today just a company profile, but even more, it's a journey of a cybersecurity company from Romania, which is, I think, a pattern for new and rising cybersecurity company in the European cybersecurity landscape. Currently, we have several challenges for the cybersecurity sector. We have digitalization, which is coming with pressure from public services going digital, or with new and even more developed private application who are increasingly developing. Second, we have the pressure coming from the remote work, because as we can see, more and more employees work from home, and in the end, we need to ensure the security for their connections and devices. The third thing, which is also increasing the challenges in the cybersecurity sector, are the regulations. You might know that in Europe, we have the NIS directive, which is stating very clear regulations for main actors in transportation, banking, financial, energy, and other capital sectors. For sure, this is transposed into national legislation, so that it becomes more and more pressure for this actor to increase their cybersecurity. Even more, we have the need for data and IP protection. As we can see, generally, companies which are being attacked lately don't lose just financially, but also there is a context in which the brand trust is lost. So in the end, the overall damage is even bigger. And also, last but not the least, is the need for more IT and operational technology convergence. As we can see, more and more critical infrastructures are being targeted by attackers lately. And I think here it's important to mention that SafeTech Innovation, as a very strong cybersecurity company in Europe, has both a strong experience in the banking and also in the operational technology sector in the SCADA environment. Because I mentioned that we are coming from Romania, I think it's relevant to understand a little bit which is the context of cybersecurity here in our country. First of all, we benefit from very strong IT universities who provide us very good talents with very good technical skills. So this is one side which is ensuring us continuous recruitment of top talents. Second, this year, European Commission established in Bucharest the European Cybersecurity Competence Center, which will become a hub for cybersecurity research and development. So I think this is a huge trust from the European Commission, and it acknowledges the importance of Romania in the European cybersecurity context. And the third one, I think, is also a national measure that was taken a couple of months ago when our cybersecurity authority was developed into a national cybersecurity directorate, so that we have the confirmation even from the government level of the importance of the cybersecurity, and now it's being regulated accordingly. Our company, as mentioned, was founded 10 years ago, and I think we need to underline here that the management is coming from the banking sector. So our general manager was previously a chief information security officer for one of the major European banks with branches here in Romania. And as a matter of fact, this expertise in both the banking business and the cybersecurity give us a lot of strong understanding of the needs of the banking sector and also the solutions that we can provide for such customers. In terms of milestones that we achieved in those 10 years of activity, as I mentioned, in 2015, we already began our partnership with NATO, and we obtain our in-cage code, our NATO commercial code, being recognized as a trusted supplier for the NATO capabilities. In 2016, SafeTech Innovation began its consultancy services projects with the European Agency for Cybersecurity, which gave us already an international approach. In 2017, in projects which were developed with European funding, we developed a solution, in-house solution, a security management solution to manage the security process. I will further detail the solution, and I think it's relevant also to understand in our company profile that the part of research and development is very strong indeed. In 2019, we begin to publish our security reports with strong insights from the Romanian market and very good hints in several industries that we operating in. And last year, our company achieved another major milestone, becoming a joint stock company. And this year in 2021, we were listed on the Bucharest Stock Exchange on Aero Market, which I think it's a strong level of our maturity, both financially and in terms of company development. As I mentioned, we are currently listed on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. It's relevant to notice that our initial placement was oversubscribed in just 37 seconds. I think it's amazing, and also it underlines both the potential of safe tech innovation on the stock exchange, and also I think it's underlining the interest for the cybersecurity companies in Romania and also in the European landscape. As major numbers of safe tech innovations, I think it's relevant financially to see that we have reached already this September turnover of more than 4.3 million USD, with an overall increase of more than 80% compared to previous year. And we aim to end this year with more than 5.3 million USD. In terms of expansion, because I mentioned that we are also delivering internationally, we have three main areas that we are focusing: the Gulf area with our partnership in the Emirates, and also we have made major steps in opening next year two branches, one in the United States and one in the UK. In terms of resources, our company is recruiting and growing year after year. We are close to 50 employees, and I think it's important to understand that Safe Tech Innovations is a pure cybersecurity company. We are not a general IT integrator dealing with some specific cybersecurity, but instead we are focused 100% on cybersecurity. What we do, it's, I think, somehow the pattern of our development in those 10 years, and also is the response to the way we approach the clients' projects, the banking sector projects. So first of all, we have a very strong division in governance, risk, and compliance services. My colleague Marinel Stănilă, who is the manager of this division, will be also presenting tomorrow in the oil and energy section. He is managing a team of experts who are providing consultancy, audits, and compliance to all the clients, both in the banking and other verticals. Such services also include security assessments or CISO on-demand services. And I think this is first step with which we begin a project with clients that we currently work with. But of course, making plans and strategies for the customer is not enough. So we have also a division for implementation of cybersecurity solution. We treat challenges like network, endpoint, and mobile security, digital assets, identity. So all those aspects are also treated. And we have several partnerships with very important vendors that will be further detailed. Of course, this is a major step in our development, but is not somehow closing the circle. So after implementing the solution with our division for cybersecurity testing, we make penetration assessments in order to test the capabilities of the IT systems and the infrastructure of the customer. Also, very important, we can provide even social engineering tests, which are, I think, we see lately that this is the major risk for a lot of clients from the banking sector. Year after year, there are new and more innovations in social engineering attacks. So I think also the way the customers and the suppliers respond to such increase in social engineering attacks should be transposed in new and more innovative ways of response. And fourth, and I think the pillar who is closing the full range portfolio is our cybersecurity operation center, in which we manage, detect, and respond to security incidents for our clients. Because sometimes banking sector, as other industry verticals, don't have all the necessary internal resources to monitor all the alerts and incidents, so they can rely on trusted suppliers to provide such services. I think somehow these four pillars define our overall strategy and also our approach towards the project. Also, one of our main differentiators is that we are fully dedicated to research and development by having partnership with private companies, with research institutes, as I mentioned, and also with universities. And we like to develop very specific solutions, not to make research for the sake of research. For example, in such a European funded project, we developed ISAM, Integrated Information and Security Management System. It was a project for one of the main authorities in Romania. And the major goal was to develop a platform in order to ensure the integration of the sources, to make a triage of the alerts and to prioritize the incidents with the benefits in terms of operational costs, due to the fact that the clients do not need huge teams to monitor, and also with an increase in terms of efficiency in the monitoring process. Another project that was developed was treating critical infrastructure resilience. We developed specialized sensors for critical infrastructure in order to monitor and safeguard the SCADA environments. Also, one other major project was to develop a platform for malware analysis. So if we want to understand a little bit after those main pillars and categories of activities that we deliver to our clients, which are the main differentiators in the market, I think there are three main areas. One is regarding our 100% specialization in cybersecurity, which is providing us an in-depth expertise. So I think this is a major fact that no company should try to escape from. Also, there is the technology side, because, okay, you can be very good in cybersecurity, but also you need other technical skills in order to have a vision in terms of IT infrastructure. And also those technical skills need to be certified. So we have a full range of certification. And also our organization is very well anchored in an ecosystem with our partners and our vendors and our customers in order to provide top quality services in the cybersecurity field. I mentioned that we have also a privately owned Security Operations Center. It was established in 2015. It is accredited by one of the two major international bodies, which is Trusted Introducer, and we can provide 24/7 services for monitoring for our clients. This center is established here in our headquarters in Bucharest, and we have clients globally for the monitoring services. I mentioned the certifications that we rely on. So we have a full range of certification, both in the consultancy area and also in the penetration testing area. We are top experts in other technologies, and also we are partnering with a strong organization, and we are being confirmed and accredited by those organizations. We can deliver solution in the user perimeter. We can deliver solution in the network environment. SCADA sector is also one of the strongest assets that we have in our company. And also in terms of Security Operations Center, there are multiple vendors that we are working with, and we can provide reliable consultancy and monitoring services. I must acknowledge that we are not working with a lot of known vendors. We rather prefer to work with very trusted, verified and tested suppliers that we are recommending to our clients. Very important, for example, we are one of the major companies who can deliver globally services for Microsoft Azure IoT Defender due to our specialization in CyberX deployments. In terms of clients, we cover a major vertical in the business. both in the banking sector, as you can see on the left side of the screen, but also we are covering healthcare, energy, transportation, and also IT companies for which we deploy full stack of cybersecurity services. Because I mentioned how is our cybersecurity approach founded, I think it's important to see also how we responded to a specific client. So one of our main customers is in the banking sector, and we apply this integrated approach, 360 degrees vision, in which we engage a solution to address multiple challenges in 4 main areas of deployment. First is the planning and development of the cybersecurity framework, in which we identify the main risk, the challenges, and the roadmap. Then we go into the implementation and management phase, in which we deploy cybersecurity technical measures. Then we do the testing and analysis of those implemented the solution, both infrastructure and application level. And in the end, we do cybersecurity defense with our monitoring and response center. For such a client, which is a major institution in Romania, we managed to deliver based on the needs that we identified, which were, for example, a fragmented cybersecurity policy, a risk of non-compliance with market regulator. As, for example, in Romania, in the banking sector, we have several authorities, like, for example, the National Bank, the National Authority for Digitalization, the National Authority for Financial Surveillance. So for all those authorities, there are a lot of regulations which are issued, and we managed to provide to our client a governance, risk and compliance framework in which we identified the overall challenges and risks. Then we deployed with our cybersecurity testing, we made the penetration and social engineering tests to see how the system are reacting. We do continuous vulnerability assessments for the mentioned systems. And in the end, with implementation of cybersecurity solution and monitoring services for the environment, we managed to cover all our client banking needs. So this is our journey in a very fast presentation. I would like to end and wrap up this company journey with a comparison that I think is very relevant for the banking sector. More than 100 years ago, a US sociologist called William Thomas observed that during the Big Depression in the United States, there were rumors about banking insolvency, which in the end, due to the fact that people redraw their savings from the banks, end up as real. So he stated a postulate, which now is called William Thomas postulate, in which he said that when people define a situation as real, it will end up as real in the end through its consequences. So my urge, my recommendation for the banking sector would be to learn from this experience, which is, I think, could seem at an old age, but in the same time is very close to us, and to apply it to the cybersecurity framework in order to avoid to transform the security vulnerabilities into a rumor about a bank insolvency that would end up as real. So thank you very much for your attention, and hopefully if there are any questions, I would be more than happy to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Stoica. We are running short of time. However, we have one question, and if you can just take that very quickly. Can you describe the project's delivery model in Safe Tech?
So thank you for the question. Basically, I think we have two major ways of delivering projects. So one model would be completely remote. So more and more clients these days are open, and through secure connection, we can deliver consultancy or penetration testing projects in order to be more efficient in the delivery process. But also, as I mentioned, we deliver our services globally. One of the top services that we are delivering is CyberX from Microsoft IoT for Azure Defender, which is now integrated. So for such services, we can deliver also on-premise. We have teams who deployed such services in project engagement in Australia, in China, in Canada, United States, or Europe. So we are open to both model of delivery.
Great. Perfect. With that, we come to an end of your presentation and your session. Next up, we have a panel discussion on the cybersecurity threat landscape in 2022, going to be moderated by Mr. Anup Das, who is the cybersecurity expert from Mimecast. Over to you, Anup.
Thank you, Karan. Great. Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Anup Das. I work for Mimecast, manage the enterprise business for this region in Middle East and India. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining our panel discussion, the cybersecurity threat landscape in 2022. We're almost near to welcoming 2022, and there are so many good news coming on in UAE about changing the way we work, shorter working hours, and aligning to the rest of the world. I actually thought we are at the end of the tunnel and started seeing light, but I think at the looks of it, there are still a few more hurdles to cross. Last week, I was at the AtHack event in Riyadh, and I was amazed by the kind of opportunities Saudi is extending to the world. Met a lot of students, a lot of InfoSec professionals. That was an eye-opener for me. I also met few senior InfoSec members in the BFSI sector. Today, we are here with a lot of senior leadership people from the BFSI sector here. Wish to share a few thoughts before I begin. So most of them, my inference based on my discussions with them, what I understood is there is no doubt that eliminating data breaches is one of the top priorities if you talk to any of the CISOs in these organizations. They also say there is a lot of threat towards their brand getting impersonated, or securing their digital footprint, because brand is always a target, so that their customers are safe. Most of them also emphasized on a need for conducting a regular audits on their digital assets so that they can mitigate the risks proactively. It also helps them to ensure compliance and minimize these vulnerabilities. Now, there are a lot of technologies they all have implemented. It's not easy to manage, so they always want to be ahead of the bad vectors, or at least defend against these bad vectors. But there's a lot of buzz going on about AI, ML, and so they were all keen to understand more on that. They also emphasized on ensuring training, cybersecurity awareness. I met a couple of universities who developed their own tools on cybersecurity awareness. I was amazed by the kind of work they have done over a short period of time. And eventually they all want we as technology vendors to talk to each other and share the threats so that as a customer, as a end user, they benefit out of a community defense. So it was very interesting. So what's ahead for cybersecurity in 2022? To discuss this today, before we start, I wish to introduce you to our guest of honor, Mr. Majid Al-Shodari. Mr. Majid is the Chief Cybersecurity Officer. There he is. You can see him. Hi, Majid.
Hi.
Mr. Majid has numerous awards and accolades under his sleeves, an experience of chairing multiple conferences and initiatives. He's not a new person over here. He's a co-founder of Saudi Association of Shared Services, a member of cybersecurity team for the Communication and IT Committee in Riyadh Chamber of Commerce. He's also execution team lead for Supply Chain and Procurement Society founder of Matic Consultancy. I hope I'm saying it the right way, Majid.
Yeah, you're right.
Great.
Yeah.
He's also the group IT director for Yusuf Nagi company in Saudi Arabia. He's a certified digital business transformation officer, moreover, a licensed MCI IT consultant with over 20 years of international experience in different industries. Of course, this has been built on a solid university degree. I think he has exceeded more than 27 courses from around the world, such as universities like MIT, Harvard. That's a lot, Majid, and we are very honored to have you on the board here. I'm sure Majid is a prominent executive in this region, and I wish I can actually request him to be my mentor.
We'll be glad, actually. I will be more than glad to be here with you. Most of the names that actually, most of them, not only in this panel discussion and others, members on the agenda today, they are famous, everyone in his or her field, and I'm so glad to be part of this conference, and especially in this amazing panel discussion. Thank you.
Shukran, Majid. We also have Dr. Tim Nidyalkov. He's a Technology Information Security Officer with Commonwealth Bank. Dr. Tim, welcome. We have Bruno Fonseca, who's a Chief Security Officer, AXA Insurance Gulf. Welcome, Mr. Bruno. We also have Divij Verma, is the AVP Information Security for Mashreq Bank. Welcome, Divij. Before we start, I wish to, I'm taking this opportunity to ask Dr. Tim to brief your role in Commonwealth Bank.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. Greetings from well, it's 10 o'clock in Sydney already. So thank you very much for having me. Yeah, so I'm Dr. Tim Nedelkov. I bring over 18 years of experience in information technology and cybersecurity across Europe, the US, Australia, and the Middle East. Currently, I hold the position of Technology Information Security Officer for the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, which is the largest bank in Australia. Every day we're in charge of processing between 30 to 40% of all transactions in Australia. And essentially my role is working with retail banking to ensure that we have sufficient security controls in place and meet the ever-changing trend landscape. And definitely the topic for tonight is something that is really important to give visibility, not only from a regional perspective, but also from different parts of the world, and see how we can work together, because essentially we are fighting for the best of our organizations. So with that in mind, thank you very much for having me, and I'm really looking forward to have a discussion with the rest of the panel.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Bruno, if you can introduce yourself and the role, what you play in AXA.
Yes, of course. So first of all, thank you for having me and here in this panel. My name is Bruno Fonseca. I'm the Regional Chief Security Officer for AXA Insurance in Gulf, here in the Gulf region. I have more than 20 years of experience working in security, and I've worked for the military, for telecom companies, and for insurance companies for many years. So I'm looking forward to our discussion here today.
Thank you. Welcome. Divij, we all know Mashreq Bank, but we would be keen to know about your role at Mashreq. Divij, you're on mute, I think.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, extremely sorry. So first of all, I'll start with Salaam Alaikum, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this forum, this session. I'm Divij Verma. I am the AVP Information Security Compliance for the bank based out of Dubai. I'm looking after the compliance for the bank. I'm a master's in cyber laws and information security with close to a decade and a half of experience in information security itself. I'm ex-QSA, CISA, CRISC, and I have been given the responsibility of ensuring the compliance of our bank across all the geographies that we operate. So it's 14 as of now, but growing. And this is something new that I have recently taken up. So it's been a couple of months that I have also been given an added responsibility of acting as the data privacy officer for my international banking geographies. So that's a bit of work that I do with Mashreq.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, Divij. I recently read that news that there is a need for a DPO, data privacy officer, in every organization. It's a law which came in effect in UAE. Good to know. Thank you. So if you look at overall banking, financial and services industry is under heavy pressure, and digital force is kind of, I would say, under attack. There is a need to protect the brand. There is a need to protect the customers, mitigate any kind of internal threats, enhance the cyber awareness, not only among your employees, even with the customers. So you play a very important role globally and in the society. And we also want to achieve a community defense. Now, in this context, starting over to the first question in the panel, over the years, we have seen these kind of tactics evolve and brands getting easily impersonated. We all know that most of these large organizations have implemented a lot of technologies to defend against these threats. But by the time the defense kicks in, the damage has already happened. I happen to be seeing a internet banking site, which I bank with, a bank in the local country, where there was a harvesting happening for the username and password. It's common scenario nowadays. What are the trends likely to impact the cybersecurity landscape in 2022? So this is a question towards Bruno now, if you can start.
Yes, of course. So unfortunately for us, the pandemic is not over yet, and I think it will still be a big topic for next year. And the way that this will impact or continue to impact cybersecurity is that this will lead to financial crises in many countries, which will in turn lead to more unemployment and, of course, more people looking for ways to earn money. Unfortunately, not all of them legal, but they will try to survive any way they can. It's human nature. Of course, we also continue to see the continued development of the security tools. So more AI, machine learning, easier to use tools, which again, when compounded with the higher number of people looking to join the cyber criminal ranks, will make it even, or will increase the threat overall. And of course, what we've also been seeing for the past couple of years, which is a significant increase on the return of investment for the cyber criminals. So their investment is paying up, and this is why we're seeing an increase in the number of events and incidents across the world. And of course, all of this will lead, again, more players in the market, more tools, and this will increase or continue to increase the pressure on companies that to some point are bound to stricter budgets and stricter rules to be able to defend themselves against the cyber criminals.
You said it right. It's a motivation for them to do it more, and for that particular, community to get into more attacks for commercial gains. I agree. Dr. Tim, what's your view? So, if from your side of, or from you're from joining from Australia, from that part of the world, what are the kind of trends you're seeing, and what do you think will impact the landscape in 2022?
Well, that's a great question, and I would agree with what Bruno just suggested. And there are a few things that bother me. The first one is around the ever-increasing cybersecurity talent gap. Depending on which number we want to believe, they could be up to 5 million unfulfilled cybersecurity positions by 2025. And I expect that it will become even more difficult to attract talent next year and the year beyond. And one other thing is also retaining existing talent and also making sure that the existing teams don't burn out for extended hours and overwork. So that's something that is not necessarily only a cybersecurity problem, but is a problem that could impact a lot of industries. And we've seen it, especially in Australia with closed borders. There are quite a lot of organizations that were not able to fulfill some critical positions. So that's the first thing. The second thing is around the intensity of ransomware attacks. This year we've seen a lot, and I would expect next year probably to double, maybe even triple. And a lot of companies realize that it's close to impossible to have 100% protection from ransomware attacks. So that's why, especially in financial industries, companies focus a lot more on the detective and response capabilities and make sure that they actually minimize impact when something goes wrong, instead of having a ransomware for all the backups for the last 60 or 90 days. And the third thing is around supply chain attacks, especially in financial industries. Not all the vendors can afford to have the latest and the greatest pieces of technology. And it's more about giving visibility of what sort of risks they could include to some of the corporate environments, and finding ways to work together with the bigger players, with their bigger partners to make sure that they're properly mitigated. And I guess with the top three, we'll be quite busy in 2022.
Thank you for that view. I totally agree. We see an uptick in ransomware in this region as well. Mr. Majid, you would have heard both views. From your experience, how do you feel? I mean, how can organization stay one step ahead to stop these kind of threats?
Okay, that is too wide for me, but I will just try to make the long story short. It's everything that we are doing even today gathering. It's depends and for the businesses that we are running, everyone in his or her field, and in today approaches and the cybersecurity industry as an industry, if you allow me for that, things all being identified as what kind of businesses that we are running, how critical the corporate's mission is. It a critical mission organizations, what type of industry it is, and if it's a regulated industry, for example, the banking, the insurance, and so on, it's become more challenging for them. So the technology or the cyber, along with the cyber security, and of course on top of that, the digital business transformation journey, it's all built on the business organization types and the criticality of it. So going back, if we assume that we are speaking loudly here about critical mission organizations, what I do believe personally and professionally, we need to hit the ground running, not buying tools and technologies only as a challenge for having the fund for these technologies, as much as to start building a solid ground or platform for these technologies. And if you think in very deep way about every technology that we are bringing, and the technology nowadays, they are in a way or other, they are a cybersecurity technology, most of them. So going back to the main question, how I really see things in the 2022, I do remember GITEX, okay, and the theme of the cybersecurity. I delivered the speech myself in there on behalf of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It was the ransomware. It's not being viruses or worms that we need to protect ourselves by uploading or downloading the new updated patterns. It's not about the access controls that we have for the new generation firewalls. It's not about the technology itself. It's about something higher, untouchable things. It's about ransomware. Corporates, they are shutting down. They are being, the business continuity for these companies being stopped, and they lose millions, if not billions. And depends, in addition to that, or besides that, they are losing their reputation on the market. They are losing their market share. And if we think about that, and we think about data breach, about ransomware, about someone to sell my data back to me, okay? This is the new future oil, okay? The data. So in a statement, governance and technology, and believe it or not, I listed most of the cyber technologies that we need to have at minimum for critical organizations. I found that they are exceeding 66 tools and technologies that we need to implement in these critical organizations, just to ensure that we are up to the level we can have some kind of a managed risk with this concept, not even mitigating most of these risk threats as much as manage risk. On top of that, also people, they are about, and we are delivering products to people. So, and acquiring such high skilled or mid skilled people become, and actually it's been there as a challenge, and it will continue for some time. And I don't think that's become a major painful item, because the truth, if we pay well, we will be getting better qualification, whoever in the market. So everything go back again to the business that we are doing, to the industry that we are in. And I personally advise to go and implement to secure these 66 technology list with the board, but not asking them for fund as much as justifying not having them from risk management point of view, how this will be damaging, or how this will be increasing the ROI of the organizations, or how this will be transferring the risk. But there is nothing called accepted risk or rejected risk, because risk is always there. But I wish to have someday close manage risk in organizations. So it's not an easy coming year, and it will be more difficult. Hackers become, or doing this, it's a become new business model.
Yeah,
It's a become a new business model. I just found that in Gitex itself, there are companies, you know what they are doing for businesses? They are the middleman who negotiate between the customer who is being attacked and the ransomware attacker, how much they need to pay. Think about it.
Very true. Yeah,
It's almost in 2-3 years it will be very mature industry. So the service provider said, okay, the question not if you will be hacked. The question is that you will be hacked, but the question is when you will know that you will be hacked, at the number one. Number two, if you've been hacked, who will negotiate with the hacker? So this is the service that we are providing. So yes, we went beyond that nowadays, and welcome to 2022. Just get yourself ready.
Thank you. It's very insightful. You clearly stated it. Everyone is a target. I agree. And we also did some kind of a survey, and we found that in an enterprise, there are over 70 tools. You almost nailed it, which is a no-brainer to implement. I agree. And business continuity. We recently had an event in this region. One of our friends in the healthcare got a ransomware attack, and they approached us for business continuity because email was a lifeline for them. They said we can't live without continuity on email, and we need that to be, continuing. We were able to help them. Yeah, thank you for that. A real eye opener. Great. The next question, it's staying one step ahead in such fast moving threat landscape. Definitely demands a proactive, I would say, a multi-layered approach to cybersecurity. This question is to Divij. As a bank, what steps do you take to tackle the brand exploit? Or it's very common. I'm sure you know it, that it
Yeah,
gets impersonated, targeting your customers. What kind of
yeah.
steps do you take?
Okay. So, see, all of us know brand impersonation, brand abuse, whatever we like to call it, is a big problem. And it's actually getting bigger and bigger day by day. Like recently, I was reading a report. So I was going through it, and the numbers were scary. So the report stated that losses due to these identity thefts or brand abuse costed more than $500 billion in 2019, and which rose by almost 42%, and hanging somewhere around $712 billion by 2022. And yeah, this obviously this huge increase was fueled by the high rate of unemployment that Tim and Bruno also stated on those lines, because the high rate of unemployment that rose during the pandemic, and everybody who wanted to take those benefits from the extended unemployment, and this seems to be an attractive target for fraudsters. So now talking about Mashrak Bank, so we apart from the usual practices that we have, specializing to brand abuse and brand abuse monitoring, we have engaged a third party. Frankly speaking, I'm not sure whether I can name that third party in a public forum or not. But then the service provider helps us in identifying any fake pages, websites, products, or maybe ads that are over the internet. So this is basically done by crawling over the various social media platforms like, say, Twitter, FB, LinkedIn, or in fact any of the publicly accessible platforms. So there are algorithms, or in fact, let me put it in this way, the signatures that we have configured, wherein they'll keep on crawling all these platforms, and if they find something suspicious, those will be flagged, and they'll come back to us to guide us on the further course of action. There might be cases wherein we can only ask them to, say, bring the page down, or in case, take a legal action, and so on and so forth. So this, along with a very big thing that I think is one of the major success factors in such scenarios, is all the awareness and education to our customers. So that
Yep.
is also another thing that we rely heavily on in such scenarios. Like, it's a proactive approach that we take, inculcating that security culture among our employees as well as our customers, which helps us in dealing with such scenarios.
Thank you, David. It's good to know as a customer, I'm also secured. Great. You said it right, that on the awareness part, there is a need to focus on that. I agree. I also picked up what Majid said. Data is oil now. Data is the new oil. So, and the custodian of this data nowadays is the CISO. That's what we call. And the CISOs are on the table, sitting with the board nowadays. I've been hearing, or I read once, a CEO has to-do list around 10 points, out of which the top 4 are the CISO's project. So that level of importance is there for a CISO now. This is a question to Bruno. Do you see this role evolving? And how do you see the role of CISO evolving in the near future?
It's a good question. So we have reached, as you just mentioned, we have reached the board, right? So right now, the people or the person responsible for security, that is having security, is right now either sitting with the board or at least having frequent access to the board, so it's on the table. So I would say that from a relevance in the company, we have reached the right level right now. But what we need to look forward is exactly what, in terms of security, are we going to be covering? Because what we've been seeing in the past few years is that security should be seen as a whole, not only information security. So we still talk a lot about information security, cybersecurity, and we tend to forget that more and more we're seeing attacks from the physical world and the cyber world that are coming hand in hand. So a lot of activists have a branch on the cyber world that they use to push their agendas. And of course, as you also mentioned before, we have seen that operational resilience has been and is being impacted in all the companies by these attacks. So effectively, some companies worldwide have started to evolve the CISO role into a CSO role. So it's no longer the Chief Information Security Officer, but it's becoming the Chief Security Officer. Right now, we are operating under that model here in the company. So I'm already responsible for information security, physical security, and operational resilience in the company, and we have seen many synergies between these areas that we can look forward into the future as being quite, let's say, quite beneficial for the company to treat as one and be seen as one topic and not as three separate independent areas, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah. I've been also hearing that CISOs are better humans to manage an organization. Eventually, there is a chance that CISOs may rally to the CEOs. Yeah, good thoughts over there. Another question. This is to Margit. We have been hearing a lot of AI and machine learning, these buzzwords. You've been in GITEX, at Saudi Hack. It was predominant, and most of the employers or organizations are evaluating these kind of solutions, and it is kind of transforming the finance sector, no doubt in that. Are you using or have you thought of implementing any AI or machine learning solution, or do you think it plays a critical role in securing the organization?
Of course, this is actually the emerging technologies overall. It's the new era of the traditional technologies that we had, and we still using them. I don't think this will be soon, but it will take some time to adapt and implement such future new era emerging technologies, including big data, IoT, and ML, and on top of that, the AI. The most important, where is the cybersecurity kitchen, okay, is the security operations center,
So,
the SIEM solution. I saw a lot of, actually a good number of service providers who keep saying that we have this AI, we have this ML, and I cannot disagree anymore on that. But the point is that it's not about automating a process. It's not about, as you are best to tell, it's not about such automation process. We can call it as AI as much as the AI itself, where it can read, understand, do the proper analysis, and take the first decision, and second and third decision will come from the machine itself. From that concept, there is no much AI end-to-end solutions for the SIEM solution. where it could be a potential area where the CISOs and CIOs we care where they can improve and enhance, where also we can help out with the head counts, for example. That's who's working for this, because personally, I found that it's very challenging to keep the SOC agents for more than 2 years, 3 years, because they want to move out, they want to move to learn new stuff, and we need to have this kind of fresh blood most of the time, every year. So AI can help us out in analyzing the potential threats as number one, and from human perspective, human resources perspective, it could replace to certain level what the SOC agents doing, and we can have just a limited number of security operations center agents where they can maybe look after certain jobs where we need their strategic thinking to think about that particular X incident and how they can take it to the next level, but not the way that we can replace the human resources totally. I don't think the world itself, from world class level, we reach that level yet. It's all about just few engines here and there. And yes, we need to get ourselves ready, and we need to buy some lovely products and have them in-house, because it's not about if I like the AI or not, if I like the transformation or not, as much as I do remember, and I'm sure you do, the cloud discussion 10 years ago. If we open that cloud discussion, the panel discussion will continue for days, gentlemen. So because of the security threats, because of the risk that the cloud is bringing with, but it's not an option anymore. There is, if you are not fully on cloud, they are partially on cloud in a way or other. One of the 2 or 3 critical services that you are running as an IT services. So going back to the AI, yes, it will help, but not to bring your hope to the highest level. It will help in a certain level for this, just for the time being, but in the future, what I can see maybe after 4 or 5 years, it will start tackling most of the cybersecurity issues, and things will be more centralized and of course virtual.
More matured. Another 4 to 5 years.
Of course. And by the way, most of the regulators, international and national, they are pushing to that direction in a way or other.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good input. Thank you for that. I have a question to Mr. Tim. Dr. Tim. There's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt around ransomware. We covered, a few of the panelists also spoke about it. The frequency in Middle East is very high. I'm not sure what is the landscape in Australia, but we keep on hearing about it. And there is a cyber law which comes into place. If you're in Europe, it can be GDPR. In Australia, you have your own. UAE have our own. Saudi has. So what is the role of cyber insurance? Because the moment you get hit, you're supposed to inform the regulatory in a matter of time. And depending upon the actions you took, there can be, you can get penalized. So what is the role of cyber insurance in mitigating the cyber risk in financial sector?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another great question. I think you touched on a few regulations that are already in effect or coming in effect in the very near future. So look, the concept of cyber insurance is not something new, and definitely has a role to play in supporting the overall security programs of organizations, because you have residual risk, and there will always be something that is going to impact you. And when you have the provisions to buy insurance to cover some of the costs, that's definitely an opportunity. Depending on the size of the financial institution, there will be some financial institutions that have self-insurance, so they don't necessarily rely on on a third party. However, something that is very important to understand is the coverage and the expectations from the insurance perspective. For example, in some situations, organizations have to provide sufficient evidence of alignment and compliance with industry standards, industry frameworks. Some insurers might ask to use specific forensic tools or even specific companies that help with incident response, and it could result in additional costs and additional complexity for the environment. So depending on the level of maturity of the cybersecurity practice and the coverage, the costs of insurance could be significant. So therefore, it's important to have a solid understanding of what is included and what is not going to be included, and if there are any prerequisites before you insure, because as you Anup just said, the things that could go wrong will go wrong, and we need to make sure that we have an additional layer of not necessary of protection, but more additional funds that can be utilized within reasonable timelines, and also additional capabilities. Because if you are in a situation when you are hit by ransomware, you can have all the money that you need and want, but if you don't have the capabilities to respond within reasonable timelines, it could be a big challenge.
Absolutely. Right. I've been hearing recently that the cyber insurance companies are also catering or trying to incorporate an awareness. They're saying that, okay, it is mandatory to have cybersecurity awareness part of the insurance, and certain organizations are saving on their premium when they implement cybersecurity awareness. I've heard about it. Yeah. Thanks for that. Whatever we do and say, whatever we do implement, employees remains the weakest link in the tech chain. There's no doubt in that. This is a question towards Divij. What role does your employees play in the cybersecurity strategy? And how do you think user awareness programs should be evolved?
Okay, so I would take this as a continuation to the previously answered question. See, cyber criminals have become experts at engineering sophisticated attacks by tricking employees into, say, clicking on malicious links that actually initiate the attacks. If you go by the information or the data on the breaches, more than 85% of data breaches actually involve a human element. And like you rightly mentioned, employees are considered as the weakest link, and this is what I also keep on saying, that a chain is as strong as its weakest link. Here we usually, fortunately, unfortunately, call the employees as those links. So nowadays, more than ever, cybersecurity awareness programs have become one of the key focus areas for organization, and same is the case with us as well. So to change the employee behavior, reduce risk, ongoing security awareness is actually crucial, because see, you can have n number of controls, you can have the best of the hardware, the best of the softwares, but inculcating that security focused behavior is the best bet, I would say, to combat the ever changing threat landscape. Because these threats will keep on changing, but if you have that security behavior itself, that will help you come above these threats. So we have mandatory trainings in our organization. We do have regular tabletop exercises which involves focused focus to very focus to particular roles, and which are involved in cybersecurity and information security and the operations as well. So basically these are role-based trainings, exercises. We also undergo phishing simulations, then awareness awareness mailers. That is a regular practice. And with all these things coming into picture, we have surely seen an upward trend in our overall awareness,
Yeah,
and obviously a downward trend in any of those untoward incidents. There's one more thing that I would like to end up with. So people, this is what I believe: people are the weakest link, but they are the strongest defense as well.
absolutely. Yeah,
And we make sure that we do identify ways to strengthen our security culture. And this is how we are working, and we try to achieve this.
that's great. Um, that that made me think of one of the largest airline in this region use our awareness tool, and what we have extended to them is when there is an attack, it's a real attack, real world. We would have stopped it at the gateway and then would have converted to a template and given to the infosec team to test the user. Yeah, it's very important, and I totally agree what you said, David. This is a question to Bruno. We have a lot of technology which we adopt these days. Does it mean we are increasing the threat vectors as we generate more data? Also, the security analyst struggles to validate these data, and a lot of time and effort has gone on this benign warnings. So an organization like AXA, I mean, you're huge. Everyone knows AXA globally. So how can an organization like yours, or how can organization better prepare to face the complexity of the current or future threat environment?
Well, I would say that's the $1,000,000 question, right? How do we protect ourselves against the cyber threats? I think it needs to be a multi-vector approach on this. So first of all, I would say that companies need to understand that they need to keep their investments in security or increase if it's insufficient, because otherwise they will risk losing or missing the train, because it may be too challenging for them to catch up if they fall behind too much. Of course, because we all have limited budgets, we need to really understand what are the threats to the business so that we can focus on mitigating those, not just applying a blanket approach to security, because we won't have the money to reach every single threat. And of course, it was also mentioned here before that we need to invest on detection and incident response and not only prevention, because we know that we will be breached, and probably our success is going to be measured not by how well we protected ourselves, but how well we responded to the incident itself. I would also say that it will be important, also mentioned here previously, that we keep an eye on third parties. We probably are big enough, or we work for large enough companies that will have the right budget to address at least the security at a minimum level, but many of our third parties are not. So having a good criteria on selecting those third parties that we're going to be working with and helping them increase their own security posture will be very, very important for the future. And of course, as I also said in the convergence, the security is no longer limited to the cyber world. So more and more we'll see transversal threats going hand in hand with physical information security, cyber, and all of them will pose a risk to the continuity of the business. So we will have to have an integrated view of the problem, and of course, an integrated response to this threat.
Great. I picked up a few things. You said multi-vector approach. You risk of losing or missing the train if you have a blanket way of working, and yeah, budget is a problem. To that point, I've seen a lot of organization relying on Google or Microsoft. So they might have the collaboration platform or mailing platform with them. but they also rely on the same vendors to secure their environment. This is a question to Majid. So when an organization is adapting new technology, will you rely on the same vendor to secure it, or will you consider a layered approach on top of that particular application?
Thanks, Anu, for the difficult questions always.
I don't think it's difficult for you.
Actually, actually, the situation is little bit been acquired from a third party, either email service with no mentioning to any brand, but or any other services. The situation we got controllers on the third party service provider, starting from the contract and legal implications, technical implications, SLA, and this and that. The second point to have or to be well equipped with the necessity allow us to monitor and manage the risk behind such access or connections with the third party. For example, if we take the email service as a service, it's good to have the service through X and complementary services and bespoke this and that, but also to have additional layer, and this is what is the cybersecurity about, having or building additional layers and additional investments on the first layer. First, if you do the first layer, you will bring in a second layer. The second layer, if you do it, you will bring in a third layer. So with that concept, and to have different products here and there, it's good also to take you to the conclusion that we need to have maybe from the main service providing anti-spam solution as much to have another. That's all.
That's a good point. So, yeah, sorry to interrupt.
And to ensure even so, and to continue.
I
so
think
the way that we will be dealing
bandwidth
on
issue.
This,
is that me or you guys also having a latency?
Party connection.
Latency.
We're not able to hear him. Mr. Majid, sorry to interrupt, but we are not able to hear you. I think you're having some internet connection.
Now it's better. I think you can switch off the video maybe, so we can hear it better. Yeah. Did we lose him? Okay. Just to save time, we'll move on to the next question. This is to Dr. Tim.
Okay.
Majid, Majid, you're back. Yeah. What? Thank you. We lost you for a few seconds. No. All right. So the next question is, the cybersecurity in UAE is shaped by global factors. If you explore other regions, essentially in UAE, we have the central bank. You go to Saudi, we have SAMA. Mashreq has presence in India. Maybe you are regulated by RBI. And so as an InfoSec, how do you ensure that you're complying with these different regulations? Divij. Sorry, okay. I think I asked Tim, but Divij, you can start and then we'll hand it over to Dr. Tim, if you guys are fine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm absolutely fine. So, well, this is actually a question that is quite close to my heart. So just to give you a perspective, we are currently operating out of 13 geographies with our headquarters in Dubai, and with business spread across the globe comes the burden of laundry list of regulations and the responsibility of course, complying with them. So, as a matter of fact, like you rightly mentioned, I have seen that the regulations by CBUAE incorporate most of the best practices from the global frameworks and regulations. So, that is something that I see as a plus point for us, since we are headquartered here, most of our data, most of our systems reside here. So we have actually come up with a common control framework as well. This is something that we have developed internally for all the regulations that are applicable to us. So this gives us a list of controls, at least a set that once we comply, then at least we would have received some sort of compliance across all our geographies. Then if you look from the team perspective, so we follow the hub and spoke model. We have a dedicated compliance team in UAE with spokes spread across our international locations. So
Okay.
as the compliance team, we are the channels to the regulators, obviously. We receive the regulations, the circulars, come up with controls, change them to actionable points, and then say track them to closure. So if I start counting currently, like things like
Yeah.
Nessa, Swift, for all of our locations, we have to have our annual compliances. And as we speak, currently the Swift assessment is also going on. We are certified with PCI DSS, and we work out of geographies like Hong Kong, New York, and India. And you know the regulators here. I'm
Yes.
sure everybody in this session knows the regulators there. So yeah, we try to be as proactive as we can be, in sync with the industry, trying to get the best practices, just to monitor whatever the landscape is changing, whether it's the threat or the regulatory landscape. And yes, this is how we try and manage our compliances. And touch wood, we have been at par.
Great.
So, and
Thank you,
hope.
Divij.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you for that insight. Unfortunately, Majid is not able to join us, and we are slightly overshot by time. In closing, I wish to ask Dr. Tim, what are the one takeaway you want to leave with the audience when considering a proactive cybersecurity strategy?
Well, the most important thing is make sure you understand your environment and build baseline expectations of what could go wrong.
That's a good one. Thank you. Over to Bruno.
Well, I think that the overall cyber security and security overall will continue to be a big topic on the table, and I think it's important companies still spend the time and dedicate enough time to discuss it and to share amongst ourselves, because it's by uniting that we will be able to face the threats that we have.
Thank you, Bruno. Divij, do you want to add?
I think I have concluded. So yeah, this is whatever I think I have uh, expressed my views. Nothing more to
Absolutely.
add.
Thank you. Thank you, Divij. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for extending this time. We are slightly overshot by the time. Handing over to Karan.
Thank you, Anup. This was a very insightful discussion. Next up, we have another panel discussion on the emerging cybersecurity technologies and business alignment, which is going to be moderated by Dr. Tim, who is the TISO from Commonwealth Bank of Australia. Over to you, Dr. Tim.
Fantastic, Karan. Thank you very much for having me. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where in the world you are today. And welcome to our panel discussion. We have few great panelists that will be joining me today in discussing this exciting topic, and I will quickly introduce them, and then we will spend a few minutes to get a little bit more insights about what they have been doing and more about the roles that they are performing. First, we have Mr. Fadi Shaoub, who is a cybersecurity financial services leader at Ernst & Young. Good afternoon, Mr. Fadi.
Thank you. Good evening to you.
Good evening to me, yes. We also have Mr. Manish Mishra, who is a VP for data privacy at Mashrak Bank. Good afternoon, Mr. Manish. All right, and we also have Mr. Ziauddin Ansari, who is head of cyber defense of a large Islamic bank in the UAE. Good afternoon, Mr. Ziauddin.
Hi, Dr. Tim. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And we also have Mr. Aurelian Stoica, who is a security consultant at Safe Tech Innovations. Good afternoon, Mr. Aurelian.
Thank you, and good afternoon and good evening to everyone.
Fantastic. Well, as you can see, we have a great panelist, a lot of panelists with a lot of experience. And what I would encourage you as our audience is to ask your questions. We'll dedicate some time at the end of the discussion to have a quick round of answering your questions, and you can see the level of expertise that our panelists are bringing. So make sure you ask and answer the most difficult questions that you can think about on the topic. So I will quickly start with Mr. Fadi. Would you just give us a little bit of an overview of your role and what you have been performing?
Thank you, Dr. Tim. My name is Fadi Shalhoub. I am the EY Cyber Business Leader for the MENA region. I'm based out of Riyadh. Basically, I work with a lot of our banking and insurance clients on multiple layers around cybersecurity. I have around 20 years of experience, both as a CISO as well as an advisor and consultant, as well as delivering projects in the MENA region and the UK, Australia, and the Gulf region as well. So I'm based out of Riyadh, as I mentioned. This is quickly conscious of time about myself. And I'm very happy to be here, and thank you all for having me.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Fadi. We're also very grateful for having you. Mr. Manish, can you give us a little bit of an overview of your role?
Sure. Thanks, Tim, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Manish Mishra. I'm working as a global DPO for Mashrak Bank. So in earlier session, you had my colleague Divij, whom I work very closely with. So I'm responsible for managing the head office and the UAE privacy compliance, as well as working executing the DPO task. Prior to joining Mashrak, I was with EY. Fadi, I was with EY India, working with Prashant Chaudhary, I have delivered a lot of projects in the Middle East region. I have worked for a couple of names like SocGen, Qatar National Bank. In India, if you are familiar of the name State Bank of India, Ratnakar, RBL, some of the small size bank, and International Monetary Fund and whatnot. So prior to EY, I was with Royal Bank of Scotland and HSBC for around good 10 years. So that's me. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Manish. Mr. Ziauddin, a little bit of an overview about your experience.
Yeah, hi. Thank you all. Excited to be part of this particular panel and discussing this important topic. Yeah, so my name is Ziauddin Ansari, Zia. I head the Cyber Defense Center. My role primarily evolves around defending my organization from different type of cyber attacks. So I have different teams under me, incident response and security operations center. So all of this is part of my team defending the institution from various type of cyber attack. Yeah, so I have overall kind of 18 years of experience in this domain and working with this current organization for last 3 years. So that's it in short. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And Mr. Aurelian, you delivered a great presentation just about an hour ago. Just give us a little bit of an overview of your role.
Thank you very much for the introduction. So my role is to connect international customers interested in cybersecurity services with SafeTech Innovation, our company, which is providing a full range of cybersecurity services from consultancy to monitoring and security center implementation and penetration testing. I come with more than 18 years of experience in information technology, and I'm specialized somehow in the international area. With I remember very well the projects I developed in the United Arab Emirates with the Ministry of Education. So very good memories with the countries. Thank you.
Fantastic. And we have a little bit late, but still with us, we have Mr. Shafi Ismail, who just joined us. Maybe Mr. Shafi, can you give us a little bit of an overview of your role as a cybersecurity professional?
Sure. Thanks, Dr. Tim. My name, okay, guys, I'm heading the information security function for Mubadala Capital. I'm sorry I was late. Today it was a heavy day. Yeah, so basically I handle all the security projects, and we are a very new company, just like 6 months old. We just came out of our branch in Mubadala. So almost like 15 years of experience in this industry, being frontline in a lot of conferences and forums talking about cybersecurity. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, if my calculations are correct, maybe we have close to 100 years of combined experience in cybersecurity, which doesn't happen very often. So thank you for our panelists. And before we deep dive into the questions, let me give you a little bit of an insight of why we're looking to address the topic that we're going to talk about. The cybersecurity landscape is rapidly changing with a lot of innovation, both from traditional vendors and startup companies. We have seen situations where there is an abundance of technology capabilities, a lot of new processes, a lot of innovation, but in some situations there could be friction and misalignment with business expectations. Therefore, we're going to talk about the role of emerging cybersecurity technologies and the importance of business alignment. And I will start with my first question, who is for Mr. Fadi, and it is about what priorities should be included in a security program to better align with business requirements. Can you give us your thoughts?
Sure. Thank you, Tim. Well, basically, there's always the notion that cybersecurity is a property of something else. So basically, whenever we're talking about cyber, it's not on its own. We need to align it with our business strategy, and we need to align it with our technology strategy as well. And this is where basically the making sure that we embed our business objectives within our own cybersecurity programs. Especially with these changes, as you mentioned, in the technology world, with many transformations happening, with banks going into the cloud. For example, in the UAE, recently they just started to move into FS Azure, and there's a big transformation happening there. There's a lot of new technologies being introduced, from blockchain, from other API economy, from identity access services. So whenever you mention all these technologies happening that are really looked at more as business generators, because banks now are able to integrate with fintechs and actually sell these services. So cybersecurity becomes very important to be aligned within the business strategy, not only as a security function where you are enabling the business and making sure that you are providing secure services, but actually where it will support in business generating. And this is, I think, where it starts to make cybersecurity even more accepted as well, and moving from the idea that cyber just stops the projects, but actually enables the project. And what we are seeing as well is that many cybersecurity professionals now are taking the role of if the bank wants to go to the cloud or the bank wants to open its APIs or what have you, they are pushing that and making sure they embed the security from the design phase to be able to achieve these requirements for the banks and financial services institutions. As a final note on this topic, I think not every bank or institutions are at the same maturity level in this regard. But I think it's very important to make sure that cyber is embedded in the business strategy and security program is not only regulatory driven, but business driven. So that's basically it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Fadi. I am completely with you around business objectives, and especially when banks are moving to the cloud. A few things that I can share from my part of the world. Actually, my doctorate degree is in cybersecurity for cloud computing, so I have a very solid understanding of some of the challenges that you just highlighted. And the Commonwealth Bank, which I'm a TISO, we have a target to migrate 95% of our workloads into the cloud by 2025, and having to deal with all these challenges is pretty much part of my everyday job. And one thing that I always challenge vendors when they come and try to sell us a lot of nice and shiny things is asking them a simple question: what kind of business problem are you going to solve? I think I mean in this question is quite a lot of things can be said, and I will also ask Mr. Ziauddin the same question. What are the priorities that should be included in a security program to better align with business requirements?
Sure, this is an excellent question. Thank you for asking. And I think I see that we all are aligned in terms of having an understanding that security is something which is business enabler, right? But how do we ensure that business gets that particular confidence that security is not going to block and security is actually going to help me deliver what I want, right? So if the bank is moving on to cloud, right? If the bank is coming up with a new product, the bank is coming up with a new digital channel for my customer, how all of this new thing which my bank is coming up with, how do I ensure that I provide that confidence to the business that I am along with you going to enable you to ensure that you deliver this product securely, right? So it begins right from designing my strategy. If my strategy is completely aligned, if my vision, goals, and objectives are all aligned to first the business objective, that is my first step. Second step is, all of this priorities which the bank has, over a period of 3 to 5 years, right? My all priorities needs to be aligned into the same direction. And as I said, we have to first give that confidence to the business that I am here to help you enable to generate money, right? I am not going to block you by coming up with a lot of complicated controls and regulations, and I'm going to tell you that you cannot go ahead. No, I am going to give you all that confidence and ensuring that all my design, all my infrastructure, all my security monitoring, all of those in parallel are being worked upon with all my respective teams within information security, and giving that particular assurance to the business that we are ready, and you be from your side, go ahead and launch this product, and in parallel we are ready in supporting you from all the angles when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to monitoring, when it comes to ensuring that I have a minimal viable security when the launch of the product happens. So I think if we give that particular confidence to the management, security will be actually treated as a trusted entity within the business itself, and they would start coming to us even before we going to them. They'll start coming to us and asking, give us that sign off and assurance that we are secure and we are ready to launch our product with all the required security in place. I think that's it I would like to add. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your answer. I completely agree with you, and you mentioned something very important. We need to have a view for the next 3 to 5 years, because some things that we want to do in the future will require some solid foundations that we need to to make sure are established in the next maybe 24 months. So definitely a great answer, and thank you for that. So the next question is for Mr. Aurelian, and it is about more about the future, which are the cybersecurity trends with the biggest potential for the future?
I think if we hit that correctly, the clients will definitely benefit from this expertise. For sure, a lot of people mentioned artificial intelligence, and we in SafeTech Innovation really believe and we apply artificial intelligence in our consultancy and deployment projects. As we see lately, more and more attackers focus and use artificial intelligence, for example, in social engineering complex schemes, in which, for example, deep fakes are involved using artificial intelligence. We know a lot of cases of attacker who impersonated managers from different organizations, and in some important cases, they managed to convince people to send money abroad. So this is part of the story. The bad news is that, for example, in Canada, justice decided that insurance can no longer accept social engineering failures and to be compensated. And in this respect, I think companies need and customers need more and more to think how to prevent and to correctly respond. So artificial intelligence is, from our side, one of the strongest points that we should focus in the future. And we, for example, apply it day by day with solution for anomaly detection in the network environment. So we use, for example, Darktrace as one of the top solution with machine learning and artificial intelligence embedded in order to provide to our clients strong capabilities to respond. Second, I think the answer should naturally go towards automation, because as we see in the security teams, more and more tasks are coming every day. The security teams are somehow limited. So I think in this respect, in the future, they will need more support from the automation side. Probably many of you know that one of the biggest automation company in the world, and I'm naming UiPath, is coming from Romania. So Daniel Dineș launched this company in Romania. Now it's an US and global provider. So we like the concept of automation. We really think it's a very strong and powerful concept for the future. And somehow following Daniel Dineș, the CEO of UiPath logo, let's say, slogan, he said if Bill Gates thinks a computer is needed for every person, I think a robot is needed for every person also. So we think that in the future, every person should have a cybersecurity robot to help him in automating tasks. For example, I don't know, verifying IP domains and other simple stuff in order to protect. And also, I think a big trend which is coming, and we see it in interaction day by day with our clients, is regarding the part of the training. I see solutions focused on training for employees using cybersecurity platforms, and I think this could be a potential answer to close this gap. Many of the attacks are based on human error. Many of the attacks use social engineering. So I think one way would be to protect enterprises through very professional cybersecurity trainings on dedicated platforms in order to reinvent the concept of e-learning, but applying it to the cybersecurity field. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, you gave us quite a lot of perspectives, and especially around automation. Automation is probably the next thing after data being the new oil, and having robots or some sort of automation helping with some of the most relevant cybersecurity trends and threats is something very important. The next question is for Mr. Shafi, and it is around what is important to drive security initiatives in an organization with the support of the business. And you're on mute. Yep.
Yeah, so I've been listening to other panelists, Fadi and Ziauddin, were talking about the strategy. It's very important. This has to come from the strategy. That's number one. Number two, the business engagement. We need to identify the right stakeholders in the organization, right? So when you're driving a security initiative, it is more of a management's commitment. The cybersecurity itself is a management commitment. Without that, it's very difficult to make a cybersecurity initiative a full success. So the first thing what we need to consider is having a well-defined forums where the right stakeholders are part of the committees where we represent the security. And second, we need to define our cybersecurity strategy, which is completely aligned with business. That's very important. So we need to exhibit, we need to show them like how cybersecurity is going to enable the business. It's not about securing the business. Business doesn't want to understand the word secure. They want to know how security is going to enable the business functions. So that's more important. So these are some of the quick wins where you have a forum where a right stakeholders involved. You define what is the ultimate outcome of that particular forum, what you want to achieve, how you want to translate the cybersecurity initiative into a business-driven outcomes. So these are some of the quick wins which I would say.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And you touched on something very important, having the right stakeholders and also explaining in the right language. I mean, if you have the executives of your company, probably they are not that interested in how many threats your firewalls are stopping. They're more about how much money they're going to lose if there is a data breach. So definitely great points. Well, thank you very much for the fantastic answer. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about data privacy, and we have an expert in that area, Mr. Manish. What role data privacy will play in shaping the business of the future?
Thank you, Tim, and thanks to all my fellow members for the valuable insight. How I look at it is basically data privacy is going to lead the way in the times to come, because if you put yourself in the customer's shoes, right, and today if I tell any one of you that, hey, I have your data and I might misuse it, or the moment when you come to know that you have a data to someone whom you don't want with, is basically a discomfort that we get within ourselves as an individual, right? So we need to just put ourselves in their shoe and understand that we do our best to protect their data as a part of the responsibility that we have. Now, data privacy is basically, could act as a business driver. For example, if you see the India privacy regulation, right, it says that there will be a privacy score attached to the organization, which will tell us that how mature that organization is when it comes to privacy, and you can use it as a selling point, right? Now, second thing is that on the other side, I as a customer, right, would like to bank with someone or share my data with the institution which I feel is more in line with the regulatory guidelines, and have done the required step in intent, at least shows that I am there to protect the data of the consumer and we care about you, right? So I think somewhere data privacy is going to act as an insurance to the business to gain more customer trust, gain more brand value in the market, and basically get that competitive leverage when it comes to doing business in the market. So the pricing is a point, like when you say feature is a point, right? Same way privacy is going to be that cosmetic change that you can do in your business offering, which will let which will let your customer come to you and bank with confidence or transact with you in confidence.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Manish. Definitely great insights. Data privacy is something that is becoming very important, and I think also regulators are realizing it. So we need to put more effort in our cybersecurity programs, not only about protection, but also making sure that data privacy is well understood across our stakeholders. Fantastic answer. So the next question is a little bit more about emerging security technologies, and I will ask Mr. Ziauddin about that. How can financial industry best utilize emerging cybersecurity technologies coupled with people and processes to defend against the emerging and advanced cyber attacks?
Great. Nowadays, if you see, the attacks are become more sophisticated, and attackers are actually utilizing all their resources and capabilities and trying to break into the network, right? So I think when it comes to the defenders, all the security professional, end of the day, I call them as defenders as well, right? Because we are all protecting our banks from the various type of cyber attacks. So we as a defender also need to ensure that we are having the right technologies in place, and at the same time we have the right capabilities and right processes to run this technology, right? So for example, now we mentioned that automation is the way forward, right? So for my organization, how do I ensure that my defending capabilities are also automated? So I'll give an example, right? I have the indicators of compromise coming in every day, right? How do I ensure all of these indicators of compromise are automatically blocked on my security devices, right? Do I have the right skill to manage this particular technology, and at the same time, do I have the right process, right? Whether who is going to review these IOCs, how is that going to be blocked? What is the duration of that? I have to have that process in place. So I have the technology, but at the same time I need to have a process in place and the capability in place to run that particular technology. Let's take an example of incident response, right? When it comes to incident response, right? So the incident responder who are actually dealing with the incident, do they really know, right? When do I need to isolate the machine from the network, right? Do I have the right process in place? Because when there's an incident happen, I cannot run around and checking whether I can isolate this machine from the network, or do I have the capability to isolate the machine from the network? Do I have the tool in place? So I have to ensure that while I have a tool in place and a technology in place, I also need to ensure that I have the right processing in place. The other thing which I see is very important, along with the people, process, and technology, is the right integration, right? So when it comes to defending an organization, is my teams integrated, right? If a security operations center who is doing my real-time monitoring, right, 24/7 monitoring, who is doing, he is actually understanding the business. He is actually understanding my how is my cyber threat intelligence functioning, whether he has a full understanding of how my vulnerability assessment function is doing the testing. Are they actually giving this test result back to the security operations center? Is my cyber threat intelligence feeding my security operations center all the required indicators of compromise that they see on a daily basis? Is my incident response team actually checking with the security operations center, how many events that they acknowledge could have been a probably incident which they did not check it because they don't have a right process, or they actually ignored it for some reason. So I think the right integration of these different teams are also very important to ensure that we are making best use of the technology and while having a right process and people in place.
Fantastic. Well, that's a very comprehensive answer, and you made some great points. I think something that is also very important is communication with key stakeholders. We don't want to be in a situation where we are actually turning off production systems without telling our stakeholders, and having the processes in place is it's something very important. Well, thank you very much for your answer. The next question is around partnerships and building trust, and I will ask Mr. Safi about that. How can business gain client and partners trust when it comes to cybersecurity?
Yeah, that's again, this question is a very important topic. Mainly because of this, today cybersecurity is more of a boardroom discussion, right? A small security incident that's going to impact the reputation of a business. So definitely, we've been, especially for the financial organizations, we see a lot of our business partners, they do their due diligence before they start doing any business with any financial organization or an investment house. So the first question they ask is, have you ever been breached? Have you ever encountered any security incidents, right? If the answer is yes, just imagine what's going to be the reaction from their side. So obviously the trust is impacted. So it's this is becoming a very challenge, because considering today a lot of breaches happening across different industries, so many threat vectors changing rapidly, a lot of new threat vectors, new threats are being getting introduced. This is becoming a very mandated questions from most of the business partners. That's number one. Number two, one more important thing is there are a lot of reasons behind this. One is, most of the regulators are monitoring the function, right? So especially when it comes to the healthcare or the financial industries, even if there is a breach or a security incident, within the mentioned time frame, we need to report the incidents to them. So how we are going to tackle this is, number one, the quick wins are the certification. So, most of the companies, organizations, they tend to go with the certifications to win the trust with the partners, like I'm ISO certified, I'm a cybersecurity essential certified, or a PCI DSS certified. So that is something like it's a traditional way, it's a old school. The new one is more of a scorecard. So today you see a lot of there's a vendor neutral forums which does the security assessment on your organization. They give you a security rating. So we call it as a security ratings. And this security ratings it comes based on based on an intensive interview, security assessment, and that can be shared with your partners. So that's an ongoing practice, it's a continuous improvement practice. So that is again one way where we can share it with the vendor, with the partners, and that's again a quick win in terms of building a relationship. We need to be very transparent with our business partners. That's the most important thing, because cybersecurity shouldn't be taken it in a very light way. That's most important thing. That's why today cybersecurity is more of the function is not. I have seen in most of the organization today, cybersecurity is not reporting to a CIO or to a CFO. It is either reporting to the CEO or it's reporting to a committee, where the committee is comprised of legal, compliance, and some of the business stakeholders. So yeah, these are some of the quick wins to gain our trust among our partners.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for the answer. And one thing that I will also include as part of this certification and verification process, penetration testing is something that often is one of the cheapest controls that a lot of companies are ignoring. And if there is somebody outside of your organization that can do it and share the insights, that's definitely something that needs to be considered. So thank you very much for that. So the next question
just want to add one more thing, Dr.
Yes,
Tim, on
Mr. Ziauddin,
I think
go for it.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think the penetration testing point that you touched, I think one of the thought process that I had is like we have to move away from a traditional way of doing our penetration testing, right? We actually have to have some way of identifying how can I actually do my continuous penetration testing, which is actually I think the future as well, because the environment is very dynamic nowadays, right? It's changing almost I would call it every day, right? And if my penetration testing going to happen like once in a quarter, once in a month, right, or once in 6 months, or once in 1 year, how am I going to be keeping up with my environment, which is changing almost every day, right? So I need to have a plan and a program in place. How do I actually do the continuous penetration testing of my environment? I think that is something which we have to also start thinking.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. And this is one of the roles where automation could be valuable when you have something that you can automate and use different types of technologies to execute it on very rapidly. All right. So the next question is around, and it's for Mr. Aurelian. And it's about, are there any complementary measures to solve the human resources shortage gap in cybersecurity? What is your view on that?
Yes, I think this touches every cybersecurity supplier, as the general international gap in human resources is increasing every year. There is a huge demand, and the resources, as we know, are for the moment limited. So I think there are two main approaches in this respect. One is about what an organization can do in order to make possible to transfer some resources, human resources, into the cybersecurity. So if you are a big organization, for example, you can go into the training and specialization of current employees into the cybersecurity area. This could be one approach. Another would be to attract from the general IT environment specialists with a very good background who are able to deliver after a proper training cybersecurity services. So this could be two major points that could be triggered by the organization. And also I think this is a pain point that every organization should treat seriously, because we see in big organization people working in cybersecurity somehow facing a lot of challenges due to the lack of resources, lack of support from the leadership. So I think there is a big support from the management needed in order to safeguard the current cybersecurity experts, to ensure that they are being supported, they are being given the resources so that they would be somehow in the best position to deliver their tasks. So let's focus on keeping the current resources and think how can we attract future resources. This is from the organizational point of view. But also I think it's important also to go into the field of education. Because, for example, SafeTech Innovation is doing education programs with universities in Romania. We develop curricula for cybersecurity master programs. So we are somehow thinking how to increase this pool of resources in cybersecurity. For sure, this will mean years of education. So it's not easy, but steps should be done already. Also, there are other type of measures that we can take. For example, we are organizing hackathons in which we put a lot of challenges in order to attract young resources, young experts towards the field. So this could be another major point to try to raise awareness towards the cybersecurity field and to make it more attractive for the young generations in order to support this pool of resources. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Aurelian. You definitely covered some very important points, especially around tailored education with a specific master's program. Definitely a way to go, and having that kind of business view, not only the academic view, but working closely with universities is something fantastic. Mr. Fadi, there is a question for you. I think your experience and expertise will be highly appreciated in giving some insights about that. The question is, how can emerging fintech companies best uplift cybersecurity capabilities to ensure secure products and services?
Thank you, Zim. For sure, fintechs now are emerging, and their characteristics really are around being, first of all, being tech-driven as well as being agile. And with that agility, they will require a lot of secure, agile processes to be able to go to market quickly and make sure that they are also secure. For sure, fintechs will benefit a lot from DevSecOps when it comes to making sure that they are securing their own sprints, making sure that whatever cloud buckets they have, they are well secured with automated configurations. We have mentioned a lot around automation. The cloud is really, the agility of the cloud is providing you with the automated deployment capabilities, as well as the automated security configurations. Previous panelists have also touched on red teaming, as well as penetration testing or continuous penetration testing. The DevSecOps capability for fintechs provides them with this ability to basically do a penetration test on their code and their changes. Because when they are doing sprints and they are doing several new deployments every month, because fintechs move quickly, they do not have a full requirement where they do a full batch of requirement, then they do a full round of testing. They actually do maybe one feature, test it, then deploy it. So this is where you need continuous code testing, continuous pen testing, and red teaming. They can utilize frameworks such as Tiber, as well as frameworks like OWASP, to make sure that they are adhering to international standards and embedding security within their coding practices. So these are quick tips for fintechs. But most of all fintechs, when they are going to basically talk with banks are always a little bit wary of fintechs because they might not have the security standard or regulation needed. So for fintechs to be able to better integrate with banks and become more maybe aggregators or provide services such as financial management services or what have you, they need to be able to be more taking into consideration multi-factor authentication, adaptive authentication, and fraud prevention for payments, making sure they have secure APIs as well to be able to integrate with banks and with other aggregators. So it's a big topic, but try to, as much as possible, frame it in a short period.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Fadi. Definitely agree with you, and something that is often overlooked, especially if fintechs are going to partner with big financial institutions. The financial institutions might have the capabilities to actually help the fintechs to go through the line and be in alignment with PCI DSS or whatever standards they're going to use. Really insightful answer from you. Thank you for that. We have a few more questions to go, and I think we're a little bit short of time, but we'll try our best to cover them. The next question is for Mr. Manish, and it's about what are some of the important considerations and insights from the new federal laws and regulations in the UAE.
Thanks, Tim. So I think, first of all, this is one of the most anticipated law. It has been going there since quite some time, and it is something which is really good to have in the environment, which is opening up for the world to, come and join us. So we have seen them taking a lot of initiative, and data protection is one of the very important pillar of that. So this is the law number 45 that was finalized around 27th of November that was released. The final regulation is yet to be, rolled out, but the key highlights that I could sum out from that is sectors like healthcare and banking sector are kind of excluded from that. So because they are saying that any regulatory body that governs the data or the data which is covered by Central Bank of UAE is excluded from this scope, and they've also given the existing free zone setups like DIFC and ADGM the capability to continue with their own data protection law which is there in the regime. Now the objective of this framework is basically to ensure that there is a confidentiality and the privacy of an individual is protected. So that is a very good theme to have from a data privacy regulation which is very much in line with the global standards. And they also are trying to build up a national data privacy regulator. So it would be interesting to see when it comes up, how does it plays, in the sectors where it is applicable. And definitely the sectors like banks, etc., will have a cross applicability because the other sector will be our clients, right? So how does it impacts us will be an interesting posture to see, right? And now from a landscape perspective, they cover all the data that could be related to identifying a specific natural person. Plus they also include, your voice, your image, your electronic identifiers, your, biometrics data, everything, geographic locations, etc. Everything is covered in this. They are also trying to say that, like GDPR, anyone who operates within the jurisdiction of UAE will be covered with this law, as well as if you are an entity outside and offering goods and service to UAE residents, you are going to be, covered as a part of this law. Now, there are certain exemptions. So small businesses or certain organizations which are not dealing with, huge volume of data or high sensitive data, that can be exempted. So those are the few highlights from my side, Tim.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for giving your insightful perspective. Actually, I had a look at the law, and I'm very impressed about how the UAE is looking for the future. And I would expect that quite a lot of countries in the region will start thinking more of a holistic way instead of having something that is very specific for a specific area and trying to fit everything together. So thank you very much for sharing your insights. The next question is for Mr. Aurelian, and it is about what should be the modern capabilities of a company to thrive in the current cybersecurity environment?
Thank you for the question. So I just presented in the beginning of this session our company journey, our first decade in cybersecurity, and I think there are a lot of lessons we learn in this 10 years of activity. The answer could be structured, I think, on two main layers. One is going to reach the, let's say, the hard skills. Company, in order to thrive in the current, let's say, environment, should have very good technical skills in order to understand and to provide the best-in-class technologies. Without experts who understand very deep the technologies, there is no possibility of success. But this is not enough. You have to integrate those technologies and to have an architectural vision, because sometimes the client may ask for a specific solution, but if you ask a specific question regarding how will you scale up, is it integrated with the other solutions that you already have, how do you plan to develop in the future, I think sometimes you can have a consultant approach and to advise it with a very good framework to work with. And third one should be a strong expertise, and not only in the main area of business you are working. For us, for example, banking and energy are very important verticals, but I think also we have very good insights from other industries like healthcare, like government, and this type of insights give you a healthy approach, and you can use very good scenarios and case studies from other industries and to benefit in the banking and financial sector. So this would be, let's say, the hard skills that a company should have definitely. And on top of that, I will think of some skills which are maybe not so important at the first glance, but we think they are also mandatory. For example, there should be an international awareness skill for a cybersecurity company. We can see in the current geopolitical context a lot of shifts. I think cybersecurity companies should be able to understand those shifts globally, because sometimes we can link cyber influence campaign with cybersecurity attack. So this international perspective gave a cybersecurity company a very good understanding of the processes. Second, of course, international is desirable, but also a local understanding, a good route with the local background is mandatory, due to the fact that, for example, social engineering schemes have cultural patterns. One template might work in an environment, the same template might not work in another region of the globe. And the third one that I think of is every cybersecurity company currently needs a specific agility to both assess new technologies and to be able to integrate and deliver them to the final clients. So without this agility, I think no cybersecurity supplier can go towards successful implementation projects. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Aurelian. Definitely very, very important points. Well, this is how it works. The time flies when I have this fantastic panel. We are very close to the end of the panel, and I will ask all of our panelists just to give us one or two sentences of key takeaways from what we've just discussed. And I will start with Mr. Ziauddin. What are your top two takeaways from the session?
Yeah, I think we all have agreed that security is business enabler, and I think let's move into that direction and ensure we give that confidence to the business. And I think second I see is the skill gap that we're trying to address in information security. I think that's another important point that probably we need to think about and ensure that this gap is fulfilled, so that we are able to defend our organizations from various types of attacks. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Mr. Ziauddin. Mr. Shafi, what are your two takeaways from this fantastic session?
Okay, the first one is identify the right stakeholders, involve the business from the beginning of your security initiatives, because that will result in security enabling the business. And second, security is a continuous job. It's not a one-time job. So to win a trust among partners, business partners, or clients, definitely we need to have a very strong security posture, and continuous validation needs to happen. So we need to adopt some emerging security solution tools, which can do a continuous validation against your security controls, and that can result in giving a very confident or a security kind of a security assurance to partners and clients.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your insightful answer. Mr. Aurelian, what are your top two takeaways?
So I think every major customer and supplier in cybersecurity field should continuously assess new technologies. I think this is where the power is coming from. I think we should rely on technologies, and we should quickly make possible an assessment in order to integrate them into the business. And second, keep an eye all the time in training and specializing the employees. They are the most important asset. It's sometimes easier to better train the employees than to buy a very sophisticated technologies, because as we can see, human resources can be frequently used in cybersecurity attacks. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. Mr. Fadi, what are your top two takeaways from the session?
Well, I think first of all, we need to make sure that technology is great, and new technologies will always be introduced. But at the same time, we need to align these technologies with our use cases. So we need to make sure that we are introducing the right technology for the right use case, combining whatever the panelist has said, that people will need to run these technologies at the end. So we need to make sure that they are aligned and they are well trained. The second takeaway, I think there should be a holistic approach with the new emerging technologies. There shouldn't be silos within the banks or financial institutions. All entities, cyber, IT, business, should be working together to end risk in order to have a holistic approach to deploy these new emerging technologies and be able to really serve the strategy of the business as a whole.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Fadi. And Mr. Manish, what are your top two takeaways?
What I feel is basically, Tim and my esteemed leaders, that organizations should come together. Threats like ransomware should be treated as a pandemic, like when we have fought recently, right? And we are trying to push that against us, right? So learnings from attacks like ransomware should be, made common. And it's not about naming and shaming. It's about learning from others' mistakes and experience, because, till the time we don't leverage the harm that has been caused to an organization, it could be, a way of carving out for others to, protect themselves. So I think organizations should come together, and regulators should play a key role in bringing them together and making sure that they act as an enabler, not as someone who is judging them or penalizing them, but acting as an enabler to make sure that if there is one incident happened, it doesn't get repeated or replicated, and the organizations are aligned to the protection. So that is point number one. And second is basically, we need to have that depth in our defense. So whatever technology or solution or new changes that we want to adopt, we can adopt, but our depth in the defense should be strong enough so that we are able to safeguard with the threats, and especially we need to engage really well with our employees, not with a business objective, but also to tell them that they are the weakest link and we are as safe as they could enable us in the safety protocol. So yeah, those were my two takeaways.
Fantastic. Well, Mr. Manish, thank you very much. And once again, I really want to thank all of our panelists and also our audience. I'm aware that we have quite a lot of participants from many, many different regions, which thanks to technology made it possible. So thank you everyone for your participation, and I will return the virtual stage back to Karan.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. So maintaining cybersecurity in today's technologically driven world has become so vital to the health of any business. Thank you so much for this interesting discussion. It was very insightful. With that, we come to the end of the session. Thank you everyone for your time. Dr. Tim, Mr. Fadi, Mr. Manish, Mr. Ziaduddin, and Mr. Stoika. Thank you so much everyone for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.